You just treat them differently. On our list was Daniel. I do understand the decision-making process. Are we better off with a different driver?
And the driver you would happily never employ again? We're talking a day or two after Daniel Ricciardo's lightly driven for the final time in Formula One. And I always think when I see a driver midway through a season having to come out of a car, I kind of think, is that causing more problems than it's solving? Do you think sometimes F1 is too tough on the drivers?
The value of winning is big in F1. And the bigger the value, the different decision-making process that happens. And the value of 6th to 7th, 5th to 6th is also big. So I can see teams looking at it and thinking, we're at risk of dropping a position. What's that monetary value of dropping that position? And are we better off with a different driver? So I can understand the decision-making process. Should you do it? I guess it's such a meritocracy that everybody wants to do the best they can in the championship. And you only know if you have better information whether the answer to that question is yes or no. Meaning, who else do you have that you can put in the car that might go a bit quicker? Number one. And number two, how quickly will that person come up to speed? Now, I remember when Williams made the decision not long ago to remove Logan Sargent, my first thought was whoever they put in the car is going to take 3, 4, 5 races to get up to speed. And I was wrong.
And by the way, it's a kid. Like, he's young, isn't he, Colapinto?
Yeah, but he got up to speed nearly instantly.
Yeah,
I was wrong. So it's hard to know, but I do understand the decision-making process because the value of a position is high. And the bigger that value, the more decisions like this you're going to make.
The Daniel Ricciardo situation is strange, isn't it? Because I used to think he was such a brilliant driver. I just wonder whether you think that's a confidence thing.
I don't know.
No.
And he was absolutely a brilliant driver. I mean, I got to Alpine after both Daniel and Hülkenberg left. And when we had the situation of replacing, we had an empty seat before we got Gasly in. And on our list was Daniel and Hülkenberg, both on the list. And I remember talking to the engineers that ran him, and they're all singing Daniel's praises, how quick he was. He was quicker than Hülkenberg. And, Hülkenberg and Daniel were neck and neck until towards the end. Then Daniel got the better of him. And now, like I say, I don't know what happened. I don't know. But, the guys at Alpine, I think it was Renault at the time, said really positive things about him.
Yeah. He's been good for the sport. He's been a great guy to have around the sport.
Agreed.
Before we get to the quickfires, you're the best driver you work with?
There's so many of them, and for so many different reasons. Best total, Sebastian Vettel.
Why?
The thing I like most about Seb is his relentless work ethic. And he does have that, and maybe that competitiveness, that fire in his belly.
Can you give us an insight into the time that you saw his work ethic at play?
Work ethic and fire in the belly at the same time, right? So Seb was used to winning. He's won a lot, 4-time world champion. And I'm sure the consideration at the other teams he was at was always, right, at a restart, when I'm in the lead, I want to know on the front straight the area of the track that has highest grip level. He got the tire engineer to measure different parts of the front straight to understand where the highest grip level was. Because at a restart, in case he was leading, that's where he was going to accelerate. So he had highest grip level relative to the others that weren't at the highest grip level, so he can have an advantage when accelerating. I remember at the time thinking, that'd be great if we're in a lead at a restart. But it's that no stone unturned. The probability of us leading a race at a restart at Aston Martin wasn't high, but he didn't care. I need to know, just in case. And that's an example.
Look, we all know the struggle of deciding what to eat, but what if I told you that Huel can make that decision easier? Their taster bundle has got 8 ready-to-drink bottles, including their black edition, which has got 35 grams of protein, 6 daily A to Z vitamins, 8 complete nutrition bars, 2 hot savoury pots, and a free Huel t-shirt. All you have to do is click the link in the description to unlock your offer now at huel.com/high-performance. And the driver you would happily never employ again?
I got to get this right. Who's the oldest now?
Well, Fernando would be the oldest on the grid.
No, that's yeah, but like Rubens, I worked with Rubens, and
oh my goodness,
he's so old I'd never employ him again.
Cop out.
But I'll tell you a story about Rubens that I just thought, I can't believe this. He came to Honda, or BR Honda at the time, and we were testing somewhere, and Rubens came in and he said, the tire's moving on the rim. Under braking, the tire's moving. I'm like, you can't feel that, number one. And number two, the grip would go before the tire seal to the rim goes. And he was adamant. I'm telling you, the tire's moving on the rim. So we marked the tire to the rim. It moved that much. Sure enough, he could feel it.
Wow. I love those.
I could not believe it. And it wasn't moving like 180 degrees. It was moving a couple of degrees, and he could feel it.
Which driver would you most love to have been the boss of?
Probably Max, driver today. Or Lando.
Yeah. Why Lando?
Well, I've never worked with him, but I know his dad. I don't know Lando that well. But I listen to him, and he can be really hard on himself. You know, he blames himself for a lot of things. And I think if you can just change that to be a bit more positive, I mean, he's doing well. It's not that. But yeah, I would like to work with him to say, hey, you're great. You know, in that American style of forget all that. You're great. Believe in yourself.
Yeah. I want to talk about how you create a culture that everyone can buy into, but you also have to look after the megastars, the drivers in a Formula One team. How do you do that?
So you just treat them differently. We're a sport, supposedly. A team of 1,000 has 998 engineers, aerodynamicists, mechanics, technicians, designers, model makers. How many sportsmen? 2. So are we really a sport?
Yeah.
Or are we a technological development company? That's really what we are. The successful ones are that. And you have 2 sportsmen. Now, yeah, we're a sport because you score points, you win, you're on the podium, everybody watches, it's a race. That's a sporting bit. But even when you look at that, out of 1,000 people, 100 travel to the race, 900 don't. So it's lopsided to technology development.
So how do you get the best
So
out of a driver?
the 2 sportsmen they're in the minority, right? You treat them differently, and you make sure that, like with anyone, you treat them with due respect. Right? You have respect for their skill set. You don't look down on them for what they don't know. But you also remind them that, you're the boss. You might be wiser in some areas than they are. And a lot of these guys, supreme athletes, but because of it, some had to forego a formal education because they spent so much time in a kart or a Formula 3 car or whatever. So they're not as formally educated as most of your aerodynamicists, designers, engineers, some of the others. So when you know that, you treat them a little bit differently than you do these guys over here.